Hello everyone, welcome to the second edition of Talks with Sato. In a few minutes we're going to be talking with Cody and with Henry about the Friday Rootstock Hangout spaces and the new Learn to Earn project 𝒞𝒽𝒾𝓃.in. Alright, thank you Manu also for joining, and I'm sure today we're going to learn a little bit more about these projects.
Hi, Thomas. Hi, Cody.
Hey, Manu, it's great to have you here. What's going on?
Nice talking with you. I think many months since last time we talked.
It's been forever. It's been,
Yeah.
I think, like 6 months now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But how's everything on your side with Money on Chain? I would love to hear more of the updates.
Well, first, it is it is growing the adoption, and even through the crypto winter still, or the Bitcoin winter. So that's good. It's not decreasing. As you see, most DeFi protocols had reduced the total value lock. In case of Money on Chain, in total value lock in Bitcoin, stay quite stable, and that is, from my point of view, is quite a success compared with most protocols that in these last months or last year and a half decreased a lot. And that in Bitcoin, measuring in Bitcoin terms, no? That's how we measure things. We are very happy because also, well, it's public. We decentralized the protocol nearly completely since December last year. It's completely controlled. The governance, the upgrades, the changes in the protocol are done only by MOC token holders. So that was like a huge milestone for the protocol.
Yeah, so I know there's a sudden change in the site. It's backed. So the site is now a decentralized website, right? So one of the issues that Money on Chain had was where we couldn't log in based on certain locations, like certain countries. So now the difference is that you can log in with IPFS and remain decentralized, and that's what I think the benefit is right now, right, with the platform.
Yes, it's a decentralized way to. It's not hosted by a firm. It's a decentralized way of hosting the web app. So actually, before anyone was able to execute the smart contract by themselves, but obviously you need to know how to do it. So in a way, it was censorship resistant, but now it's much easier for anyone, anywhere in the world. Just having an internet connection, they can execute the protocol.
Yes, that's just a big change, and there's a lot going on with Argentina right now. There is a certain president, well, a soon-to-be president. That is, if he wins. He was talking. His name is Javier. How much do you know about Javier? Because I'm just hearing about him, and he seems like a very bullish, Bitcoiner.
Well, he's not a Bitcoiner at all. I would say. For what I have listened to him speaking about it, and I only have listened to him once talk a little bit in detail about the subject. He just understands. I think that having freedom for people to choose the currency that they want would be great. Maybe from the only video that I saw that where he understood a little bit about Bitcoin, I think he understood finally, because if you listen to him like 2 years ago or 3 years ago videos, you will find him saying, I don't know anything about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and in some tweets he would say it is all a scam and a Ponzi scheme. So as most of us, including me, there is like a path to learn and to understand Bitcoin. I think he's like going in just starting to go into the rabbit hole, but I know some people who is very near to him, who knows people who knows a lot about Bitcoin. So I know that some people around him knows some, much more than him, but he's not an expert. Actually, in Argentina, we don't need the president or the government to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, for example, like in Salvador. I don't like that scheme. I prefer just that the government don't mess, don't don't say anything. Just leave us alone, and just leave the people choose whatever money they want to use, and what with that would be more than enough.
Yes, I understand completely. How's everything with you, Tom? Because it was your birthday recently. And it's funny because you have the same birthday as my friend, my closest friend. This is hilarious. August 11th.
Yes, and funny enough, I have the same birthday as my father and his father. It's three of us born the same day.
How does that happen? Imagine if you have a kid and they have the same birthday as your father and his father, and that'd be insane.
Yes. My girlfriend doesn't want to, but I'm kind of hoping. I think it's good to keep traditions.
That definitely is. So yeah.
Starting with this new weekly spaces with Money on Chain, which is very very exciting. I'm watching everything that's happening in Argentina very closely. I'm still planning on going there after the upcoming wedding in 2 months. And I agree very much with what Manu said. A lot of people ask me if I think there's ever going to be a president in Argentina that was going to adopt Bitcoin the same way as El Salvador did. And I always say people that we shouldn't just wait for that. We shouldn't expect for that to happen. And if you look at El Salvador, it requires a very special kind of president to be able to do that. Like Bukele is very unique, and I don't think you're gonna get another one like him. And I don't think we need to, or we should want to. I like the bottom up approach that Manu was making reference to.
It definitely is something where we shouldn't wait for anybody to do anything for us. It's something that we should feel empowered to pursue ourselves.
100%. So I think we should now get started with the spaces. So the first thing I would like to do is to ask you, Cody and Henry, to do a short introduction to who you are, what you've been working on, and we can take it from there. Cody, do you want to go first?
Yes. So about 2 months ago, I got into the Bitcoin Startup Lab. If you guys don't know what the Bitcoin Startup Lab is about, it's something I was very, very interested in. And the reason why is that for the first time ever, and you guys know about me, I'm always talking about how we need to bring everything together. And that was something that I really, pushed for in the space. So the Bitcoin Startup Lab is something where it's the first ever cohort, where the accelerator, where it's called a pre-accelerator, right? So it's bringing all the Bitcoiners together, and that's very exciting. So how that started was it started with ordinals. So ordinals was something that happened earlier this year, but I would definitely go on, discuss this much further after Henry introduces himself, because I can go on forever about this. But I got into the BTC Startup Lab pre-accelerator about a month and a half ago to create an app, right? And I'm building the app right now with my team. It's Javar. He's right here with the shirtless picture of G9.BTC, and my other teammate. He's in Nigeria. His name is Olu. He's not here right now. He's dealing with personal things with his family, but his name is Watchman on Twitter. And Henry, let me hear you talk about, what's your update on your end, what you've been working on and been doing recently.
Yeah, good evening, everybody from this side of the globe. I'm excited to be on the space with Money and Chain, Cody, Thomas, and Manu Ferrari. I think it's been a while. I have actually heard from Manu Ferrari, and I was kind of excited to see him on the space. Yeah. So yeah, and everybody on the space. Yeah, I'm seeing Peter too. Yeah, excited to see everybody. Yeah. So I think few like last year, I and Cody we started this space about Bitcoin, and you know, I kind of love Bitcoin from the first day I kind of heard about it because I appreciate the fact that you have freedom and what Bitcoin is doing to the world, and some other things that's going on around Bitcoin. So I did appreciate that a lot. So I started getting in touch and we started making spaces. Talking about Bitcoin, talking about what Bitcoin is doing, how you can use Bitcoin, stuff like that. So well, that is that. We have not really been consistent that much, but at least we've been doing something. I know that in the background, I've been working with this group. I'm a team leader at Crypto Update, so I think this is actually the first time you're probably gonna hear about this. But if you check my profile, you're gonna see something like building Crypto Update. So when I was doing my internship, I think that's when I was in my school internship. I think that's like 7, 8 months ago. I met up with some folks, and they're really interested about Bitcoin, and they saw that I was also interested about Bitcoin, and they was like, okay, can we come together and build something together, that we can help develop Bitcoin, that we can help grow Bitcoin. I said, wow, that's great, and we jumped on, and then we started building. Yeah, we've got a good community. We sharing a lot of airdrops. We teaching people. I think about 4 months ago we had a bootcamp, kind of a quick one, like 1 week. We taught people about Bitcoin, and we taught people about how to use, how to get started doing crypto, blockchain, and stuff like that. Well, it's been a very amazing one here building this, and also working with Rootstock, working alongside Rootstock, Sovereign, and the rest of the Bitcoin people, and also educating people about Bitcoin. It's been amazing. It's been a very amazing ride. So pretty short, but yeah, that's it.
Oh, yes. So Henry, that's amazing, and I have to give somebody credit for something. So Peter's down there. He's the one that created the logo for my project Study Bitcoin. So I really appreciate that. It ended up looking phenomenal, and I love the artwork that he created for it.
All right, that is very very interesting. The first time I saw you two, Cody and Henry, collaborating together was on your spaces, the Rootstock Friday Hangouts. So my first question was how that came about. How did you come together and decided to start, and what was the experience of hosting these spaces?
Okay. Okay, this is actually a very interesting question anyway. Cody, let me go first. You're gonna come
Oh
later.
yeah, go ahead. Definitely go first.
When I became a Rootstock ambassador, I think one of the tasks I had to do every month was that I needed to do a space. And I think I never hosted a space before in my life. I think I never ever spoke on Twitter. I didn't know anything about Twitter spaces and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. And I came on board Twitter and was like, okay, I've been seeing a lot of people doing spaces and people talking about different things, talking about tech, talking about business, and it's just on Twitter. So I was like, okay, I think I should do this. So I just, woke up one morning, hit the button, and was like, okay. I created a space, and then I shared it on my Twitter, and then I think Cody was kind of my first. Cody was like the first guy that jumped on the space, and I was like, wow. And then he came on board and started talking about Bitcoin, started talking about being in Rootstock for a while. Started talking about being in Rootstock since like way back, and he started telling me stuff. I think he was actually the first person that told me about dollar on chain, stable Bitcoin and Bitcoin backed stable coins, and the rest of the stuff that actually been built on Bitcoin. I think from there on we started collaborating, and was like, okay, cool, Cody, can we do this collab together? And then say, yeah, we can do it. So since then we've been working on this, and yeah, it's been a very amazing run. It's been a very great one because we've had great people on the space. We've had a lot of amazing people. I think we've had one of the biggest spaces on on Rootstock. I think the last one, the biggest one that I have in record right now is we had over 1,200 people join the space. It was really amazing, and so that's how far we've been going. That's how we started.
Yes, and it goes back to I love Henry's excitement, which is great, and everything is coming together, right? Because my initial plan was to bring everyone from the Bitcoin ecosystem together, and we're seeing it with Bitcoin Startup Labs. That's happening. And my other goal, with Henry, what's really interesting for me is that I love Nigeria, where it's headed when it comes to Bitcoin, right? Henry's in Nigeria. I'm like, hey, I want him, I would love his help eventually, right? So pretty soon I would love to have Henry help me out a little bit on what we're doing, because he's great with communities and great with people, which is a benefit. And because especially when it comes to Nigeria, that's something where I see a lot of potential in. What for me is going to be social media and gaming. So we're going to target those communities. So it's going to extend from there. And because Nigeria is an English-speaking country, it also helps me. Eventually, I'll have Thomas in for like Latin America and El Salvador and Venezuela. I'm not too good with my Spanish, but right now the goal is target is Nigeria, because Nigeria is probably the top Bitcoin English-speaking country if you think about it when it comes to adoption and just the need for Bitcoin in the ecosystem. And it's been a crazy ride. I remember we've had Sovereign on board on our Twitter spaces. We've had Money on Chain. We've had John Light. We've had so many great spaces. We had Diego on board, and so many big names in the space.
Yes, I know the spaces were quite popular. I am hoping that you can start doing them again. That would be great. And it's amazing how natural and organic it started. You just two met, clicked, and started and got going, and now you're both with your own Bitcoin projects. So I think you're very much an example of how people can get started in the space. If you have the willing and the drive to just get going, you can go a very, very long way. And I very much agree with you, Cody, that Nigeria and Africa, it's a place where I think Bitcoin can do the most good, and people can benefit the most from these kinds of technologies. So, like yourself, I think that that's going to be a place to be looking at in the next years in terms of adoption. So, I wanted to ask you, Henry, about how do you experience Bitcoin adoption in Africa, maybe more in particular in Nigeria, where you are based now. I'm very interested in your opinion, because you have boots on the ground, as they say.
Yeah, in terms of Bitcoin adoption in Africa and Nigeria, I think in Nigeria we have a lot of Bitcoin adoption. And yep, just to remind you, I think this Friday we're going to be having a space with one of the guys that I saw. The guy's building something very amazing in Bitcoin. Let me just throw this in. I actually didn't want to throw this in, but I think this is actually one of the stuff that I saw last week, and I saw it like a couple of months ago, but I think I took time to study it last week and this week, and it's really amazing. We've actually come to a point in Africa in the Bitcoin ecosystem that we don't need internet anymore to use Bitcoin. And that's how far we've gone. It's really crazy and it's really interesting that we have come to a point in Africa that we don't need internet anymore. And these guys, they built something that, I mean, it's really crazy. You can literally use your phone without internet to send Bitcoin and to receive Bitcoin. This is so amazing. And yep, so watch out. On Friday we're gonna be having them, and we're gonna speak in with them, and sharing let them share this crazy technology that they're building on top of Bitcoin. So in terms of Bitcoin adoption in Nigeria, I think Bitcoin is growing rapidly. I mean, Bitcoin is so growing rapidly. So let's look back when CZ came into space. When I started doing Bitcoin, that's like 2020, 2019, or like 2019, yeah, 2019 thereabout, yeah. I think back then we had little. Bitcoin was around, I think less than $19,000 or so. Less than $19,000. I think less than probably $10,000. Yeah. And I think I recall then people started getting interested in Bitcoin. Why did people started getting interested in Bitcoin in Nigeria? Because of the value, it brings. So you want to transfer money to somebody probably in somewhere else in the US, and you can easily do that with Bitcoin. So if you want to use your normal bank, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of resources. You're going to go to the bank and spend days and days and days, and they're going to want to verify that, verify this, and a whole lot of stress and a whole lot of stuff. So I think that alone has made a lot of people get interested in Bitcoin. And apart from that, the value it brings, Bitcoin brings a lot of value. Bitcoin brings a lot of value. Look at people that got into Bitcoin in Nigeria, like let's say 2020, 2019, before the bull run. Back then Bitcoin was a little bit cheap and people bought it and they've got a lot of money. They've made a lot of value. They've made a lot of wealth from it. I think that was one of the stuff that actually pushed Bitcoin adoption. I think there's a lot of other stuff. I mean, community. Look at community. I mean, if you want to see one of the biggest and the finest communities, actually going to be is if you have to come to Bitcoin spheres. Come to the Bitcoin spheres in Nigeria. You're going to see that a lot of people are interested in it because Bitcoin is actually connects a lot of people. You get connected with a lot of people. You get connected with a lot of opportunities. So I think Bitcoin adoption in Nigeria, it's crazy. It's massive. It's so massive. I think you can walk on the streets and ask someone about Bitcoin. Ask 5 people about Bitcoin. 2 people are going to tell you something about Bitcoin. So if you're on the street of Nigeria, ask like 10 people, probably 5 people are going to tell you about Bitcoin. Yeah, I own some amount of Bitcoin. Yeah, so it's a crazy, it's an amazing adoption. It's going rapidly. I think Peter here knows what's really going on. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely would love to hear from Peter as well. And also the thing that's very interesting about Nigeria is the youthfulness of, so it's a very young population, right? So about 70% of the population are under 30 years old, which is important because there's a lot of people that are beyond help, right? Because there's people who are so deep into their world and they've been fed so much into the news, and it's at this point it's like the people who benefit from Bitcoin right now are the youth, if you think about it, right? And it's good to get the youth involved because that's what's going to drive the adoption, and that's what's going to lead to people using Bitcoin. There's a lot of people that can't be convinced to use Bitcoin right now, but I think the youth in Nigeria just understand the need for it and what it could do as a whole. And then so for me, I'm pursuing social media and gaming, but our Genesis project that we have is called Handle, HNDL, which is basically, I know you guys have heard of .rsk, but not everyone has heard of .rsk, right? It's a domain name system on Rootstock RNS. It started out on Rootstock. It was the first ever Rootstock project. And if you guys don't know the value of blockchain domains, they were the first. They were literally they were initially one of the first ever apps on top of Bitcoin, right? So if you go back to what was happening with BitDNS and Satoshi and Namecoin years and years ago, over 8 years ago, right? That was what was being built out on Bitcoin. So there's a very big need for identity because that's where you start out. You start out with having your identity in that Web3 ecosystem. So, but for me, what I'm doing with Study Bitcoin is that the first project is, okay, you're going to have your identity, you're going to own your identity, and then we start from there. But the difference is that because it's such a youthful population, there's about 7% under 30 years old. How do we get people that are so young into Bitcoin, right? So if you look into Nigeria, they are the top in social media usage. So they're actually double than the US and how long they spent on social media. So the US spends about 2 hours and 11 minutes a day on social media. Nigeria spends 4 hours and 22 minutes a day on social media. So that means that if you want to target Nigerian users, you have to target social media. So that's important right there. So our goal is to target social media users, and a lot of them are on WhatsApp, which is something that I've been looking at as well. So they are on social media. They also love games. There's a booming gaming ecosystem right there, right? Oh, Peter, what were you saying?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is 𝒞𝒽𝒾𝓃 Peters, and yeah, you all know I'm a designer and also a Rootstock ambassador. Okay, so to come down to what Henry said about Bitcoin in Nigeria, right? I'm not trying to contradict what he said, but at the end of the day, I will always say that for for Bitcoin to gain its ground in any society, it will always drive down to utility, right? Utility. When in Nigeria, I can basically say, okay, there is a utility usage for Bitcoin apart from buying and selling. Yeah, and if you check the statistics, it will show that the largest market for Bitcoin is Nigeria, right? Because we have a lot of crypto traders down here. Okay, so but how do we get these things down to the people who are not on the social media, right? I will always say building products which will drive utility will always be a game changer. My last physical meetup, we talked about how gaming, how gaming and Bitcoin works hand in hand. We are trying to teach these young builders how they can utilize the Bitcoin platform to also build for gaming and making it and driving the adoption for Bitcoin in Nigeria. Okay, so I always say, even if you ask 5 persons about Bitcoin in Nigeria, they will always say yes, but they haven't interacted with it before. They will tell you, yeah, they know what is Bitcoin, but if you ask them, have they used it before for anything, they will say no. We need to up our game in not just talking about this Bitcoin, like building out utilities for it, right? So when people have to use these apps, product that has Bitcoin as a payment gateway, right? It will drive the adoption in Nigeria massively more than what it is. Right now, we have the noise, yes, about Bitcoin, but do we have the value? That's the question. We have the noise about it in the highest level, but deep down, if you check it deep down, you will know that, oh, there's no actual value down here than people just buying and selling and making profit. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, and that makes sense. That makes sense. And so to go back to gaming and social media, right? Because it's such a young population, they care about gaming and they care about social media. So that means, how do you attract these users who are on social media, at double the rate of the US, which is insane because there's a big obsession over here as well in the US with social media. So that says something, right? But how do you make this easy? So if you look at the trends with X and the trends with Instagram and then Threads. So Instagram has had an app. So Mark Zuckerberg released an app called Threads, which was like an extension of Instagram. And what happened here is that you were able to use your Instagram name to move it into another platform, which was called Threads. And then with X, you see how Elon Musk is integrating financial tools inside social media. So now you see this thing, how it correlates. So it comes with your username. It comes with how are you able to make things easier for the average users, right? So now, if you compare how Mark Zuckerberg was able to integrate your username into Threads, and how he's creating something called a Fediverse, which is a way to bring your data from one social media to another, and bring your name from one social media to another. even if you know that's not perfect and that's probably done in a very centralized way, you see where this is happening. So what's going on here is that the initial phase is that because social media and gaming are so powerful, how do you start off and add that name and add the uh, add the first point of Bitcoin association to a newbie, right? So I create Handle HNDL, where now you're able to have a Bitcoin name, but use that between social media and gaming platforms, and use that name to earn Bitcoin, and use that name to log into social media. And I'm not sure if you guys heard of ERC-6551. It's a token bound. I will send a link to it. So there's a lot happening in crypto and with NFTs, but the NFTs were not perfect. But there's something that's happening here, which is just called token bound accounts. And what that does is that it allows you to have your identity and log into apps, and then that identity is able to be a wallet within itself. So that means, so if it's Peter's that B, Peter's that Bitcoin, right? That name will represent all your identity throughout the space. So it'll basically hold your wallet. That identity will hold your wallet within itself. So we started out with just, hey, you have a wallet and you have crypto in your wallet. But now it makes sense where you have an identity, and now because of ERC-6551, you can hold things within that identity. So now you make this identity into a living organism, which is interesting because now you can move this identity across platforms. Wherever you go, that's your Bitcoin identity. And then when it comes to earning rewards, you can earn rewards from your Bitcoin identity. But then, there's a lot that comes into making things easier as well, where you could own your identity, but you can also buy your identity with debit cards and resolve Bitcoin addresses, and then RSK addresses and all this stuff where it connects it all. Right? So the initial phase is how we're able to basically have a username that connects to Bitcoin, and basically be the genesis point, and then use that username to integrate into and then affiliate ourselves with social media and gaming applications, and then have these usernames earn rewards, earn Bitcoin, because at the end of the day, it's about creating gamified experiences that earns you Bitcoin over time, right? Because I've done my research. Gamers love to earn Bitcoin. Gamers don't care about earning NFTs. So how do you create platforms and games that earn you Bitcoin? How do you create social media that earns you Bitcoin? And it starts with having that name that connects to Bitcoin, that will be able to receive Bitcoin. So it's all these stages, these phases, but that are happening with the space. But it's gonna bring everything together in that sense, and I love how that was Rootstock's first project, the RSK name. It's just a big value with that, and I'm extending that feature for social media and gaming because I just see it as a very truly essential product for users. And then also when it comes to learning, and it gets deeper, right? It gets deeper because now you could attach a badge to that name, and then show how much work you've done within the space as a learner, and how you're properly educated, and eventually get jobs based on your education, because that identity could be connected to a badge that could show that, hey, you're a trader, hey, you're this, and all you have to do is log in with that identity to certain platforms, and you'll be able to be verified into certain accounts and certain applications. And now this gets very interesting for Nigerians. It gets very interesting for Web3 accounts, Web3 users. And that is the goal to mass adoption, to be able to basically create something where we own our identity on Bitcoin, and our identity is attached to multiple Web3 ecosystems, and even beyond, where things like we've seen with Mark Zuckerberg and all these social media platforms, where, hey, you could even attach your identity, your Bitcoin identity, to a regular Web2 app. And there was a space that I held with Henry a few months ago, where I talk about this, what's happening with Nike. So Nike created their own blockchain domain called .swoosh. So what .swoosh did was that they partnered up with Fortnite, a popular blockchain. It's not a blockchain game, but it's a popular game. Fortnite. It's created by Epic Games, and they attached their .swoosh identity into Fortnite, and because of that, you were able to receive an achievement, and then that achievement ranked straight into your identity that showed proof that you connected to Fortnite, and that there was no extra blockchain involved. That only blockchain that happened was just the identity part with that switch with Nike's .swoosh, but because that identity was able to log into Fortnite and verify it, now it showed proof of what you did. You've logged into Fortnite. So now you can see how things are going, where you can log in with your identity to multiple platforms and multiple gaming applications. And now you could be a gamer and show that you're a superb gamer and you're one of the best gamers in the world. And now you can enter events and enter certain things. And, we've all thought it would be NFTs, but NFTs I love NFTs, but we have to think deeper. Where it starts with that identity, and then the NFTs come underneath. And I love that. I love the NFTs that you can't sell, right? The NFTs that you can't sell are what I love. Like they become badges where they show proof of what you could do. So I have an identity, and it's attached to a badge that shows proof of my work over a period of time. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, because now if you think about how to verify AI applications, right? So if you have, in the next few years, everything will be AI, right? A lot of things will be AI. How do you prove what's real, right? How do you prove what's real? But if you're Peters and you've been using social media for a while, you've been playing games for a while, and you have your identity attached to your social media and your games. And the only reason why I talk about social media and games is that those have the most engaging audiences out of anything right now, right? So the whole goal is to reach mass adoption is to target engaging audiences, and that's where that is in social media and games. So if you're Peters and you want to show proof of what you've done over a period of time through your social media and gaming accounts, and you've used like 10 different games, you've used 10 different platforms on social media, but then how do you verify that you're Peters? And that shows proof because you've received certain badges for what you've done over all these platforms. And then how do you show proof of what you've done with DeFi? How many trades you've won? How many trades that you're successful from? How many sales are profitable from your account? Things like that, right? But then AI is interesting because now in a thousand years from now, that same identity could be leveraged. Well, that's Peter's identity, but then Peter's identity could be something that's valuable that could be sold, right? So it gets interesting because now you have a way to verify anybody's identity anywhere, leveraging the blockchain ecosystem. But also it's something where it's an asset, because now for the first time you have real estate for Nigerians and everyone in the world, because now it's all about how much it's about. The thing about this is that there's a platform that came out recently. It's called FriendTech. It's been blown up recently on the base Coinbase's layer 2 network. Shows you the value of, especially, your network is your net worth, which is interesting. But then if you're something that's very connected, and you have an identity that's very connected to certain platforms and it's done so well over a period of time, that has value within itself. That identity has value within itself, and it goes so far beyond anything else. So now if you see that as real estate, well, if you go deeper and deeper, right, into how you could do things, you could attach these identities to like gaming characters and all types of nonsense and social media accounts. And then these social media accounts are making you money, and then these gaming characters are making you money. And then you have 10 different accounts on social media that are making you money over time. And you have these gaming avatars that are making you money, and then they on TV commercials, they're in movies. But then the future of what's happening here is that because AI is going to be hard to attach your identity to anything without it being proven, the most important use case for blockchain is identity, and then the best way to do that is connecting that identity to these social media and gaming platforms, and that's gonna create a source of mass adoption that we've desperately needed without it being forced on us. And it begins with social media and gaming. That's about it for now.
Wow, man, that was incredible. We touched on so many topics. One of the things that I always love when I speak to you is that I learn a lot of new stuff that's happening that I am not aware of. And I also love how you have all these different elements in your head and you can start connecting them. And now through the BTC Startup Lab experience, you're actually building something that is connecting everything together. So that is very, very cool. I also want to thank Peter for joining the spaces. Thank you. And for giving us your perspective. I love, Peter, what you said about, we may have the knowledge and the awareness of Bitcoin, but do we have the value as a question for the global community? And I think it's a very, very relevant one. And now going to what you were talking about, Cody, I also believe that identity, if done right, could be a great, great tool for us. And that targeting adoption on what people are already doing and they're already valuing, like social media plus gaming, that is the best way to go. I always say that you have to meet people where they are instead of waiting for people to join you. So if you say, people are obviously using a lot of social media, a lot of gaming, they care about this stuff. Okay, how can we do that in a way that gets them into Bitcoin? I think that's the same philosophy that Money on Chain had. They when they started, they wanted to make a stablecoin because they realized that people need a way of getting away of their depreciating local currency. So, and you could see that because they were using things like Tether or USDC. So the philosophy was, okay, how can we give people what they want and what they need in a way that is aligned with Bitcoin, and it's actually a better product, a better service for them, and gets them one step closer to Bitcoin. So I just wanted to ask next if you can tell us a little bit of your experience with the Startup Lab and how you're actually grabbing all these ideas and building a product with them. And I invite both Henry and Peter, if they want to chime in, feel free. And if people in the audience want to ask questions or anything, that would be great as well. Cody, I'll give you the mic to you.
Yeah. So when it comes to identity, social media, and gaming, the first thing that matters, because education precedes mass adoption, right? So comes with education. That I could talk about this all day, every day, but if there's no education, then nothing will be learned, right? Like identity on Bitcoin, what is that? So education is the most important thing out of everything. So first thing is learn to earn, where you're able to earn Bitcoin. So the way you're able to earn this Bitcoin is if you have an identity, which is where we actually built out on Rootstock, and this identity is going to be connected to your Rootstock account, which is going to be a way for you to earn that Bitcoin, right? You'll be able to earn RBTC and able to earn Bitcoin over a period of time. But so based on my BTC Startup Life experience, I've been learning just all types of, what's happening in the Bitcoin space, from ordinals to ICP to just Bitcoin mainnets, stacks, some more updates on Rootstock. And something that really stuck out for me was how, I love how Rootstock is able to connect to everything, which is phenomenal. And then what I learned is there's something that came about. So there was a speaker that came on the Startup Lab. It was it was Moritz, and he introduced a lot of things, right? And then so he's from ICP, Internet Computer, and what was being built out was that there's a thing being built out on internet computer, which is they're trying to connect to Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'm like, that's cool and all, but Ethereum, I don't like Ethereum like that anymore. So I'm like, hey, internet computer, you guys are doing a lot with social media. Like, that's great. It'd be nice to do something with Rootstock, right? That'd be nice. Like, if you guys work with Rootstock and Bitcoin, they're solving problems with AWS because there's a lot of blockchains that are backed by AWS, which is a problem. So with internet computer, they have it where you could have scalable apps and all these things on their network. And I'm like, okay, you guys are doing something great, and I love their. So it had me diving in deep into what they're building out, and it's great because they're also curious about Bitcoin. So they have a social media app called Discover One, and they have an arcade system, and I love that because their arcade connects to social media, and their social media is Discover One, and then their arcade, you could go into that social media and play games within that social media platform. Because I see adoption when it comes to like having no DApp stores, right? There's no need for a DApp store when it comes to mass adoption. For there's a lot of gatekeepers in the app store world, such as Apple. Cough cough. Those guys, they want to charge you for everything. For every transaction that we make, they want a piece of it, and I understand because that's how they make their money. But at the end of the day, uh, we need something that's open. So the power is in social media, but connecting these games to this social media. So I saw what's happening with ICP and their social media and their games, and I'm looking to see how I could connect to internet computer, and Rootstock has the capabilities to connect to everything that's available, that's EVM compatible. Because if you could work with Ethereum, you could work with Rootstock, right? So I see a triangle there when it comes to ICP, Rootstock, and Bitcoin, and that's a beautiful triangle because now ICP is something that's creating scalable layers where you could have apps for social media and gaming, but you could use Rootstock. Rootstock is for DeFi and finance, but you could also connect your Rootstock identities to internet computers, social media, and gaming applications. And I started talking to 𝒞𝒽𝒃 about what I could do there, and how I could just connect ICP to Rootstock, and how these could be such great communities. And yeah, because there's a lot of potential there. Because Rootstock is not really known for we're not known for gaming and social media, right? So we kind of need to bring that on to somebody that does know about gaming and social media. And if those two platforms merge, that could create something beautiful, because we know Enter the Computer, they are known for identities. They love identity, so it's like a match made in heaven when you think about what could happen there, and the beautiful duo that could happen when it comes to those two platforms working together. And something I've been pushing out, and I believe there's a lot that could happen there. And just from there, I talked to this guy. He's building a game, Stole. I'm gonna show you guys what's happening, and this is all supported by Bitcoin. This all will be supported by Bitcoin, which is very interesting. And hopefully here I could show the benefits of how Rootstock could benefit from working with ICP, right? Because that's something that could really help us reach, something greater. Let me see if I can find a link to it right here.
Yes, while you do that, I wanted to say that I heard ICP mentioned a bunch of times as another layer 2 of Bitcoin or something like that, but I actually have no idea on how it works, and I never actually used it. So I am learning a lot, and I don't know if you have like an abbreviated version of how it works or an explanation that you can give us.
Yeah, so ICP is interesting because they have. I can't get very technical about it because I'm not a complete expert in ICP when it comes to that part yet. But how it works is that they have millions and millions of transactions. They could do millions in TPS, which is phenomenal. But also they are a layer that does unchained, unchained storage, which is beneficial because instead of us relying on things, even IPFS isn't the best. It's great, but IPFS isn't the best when it comes to gaming and social media applications. It has its limits, right? So ICP creates the, because what they do is that they have internet computer which connects, which will be able to connect to all blockchains, and just from that alone, they are able to create a layer of scalability layer where now you're able to have TikToks and social media apps without any lag, right? And that's beneficial to anybody that's building around Bitcoin. And that's a game changer if you think about it, right? Because now you have unchained storage, you have scalable storage, and you have something that could work with Bitcoin. That's mind blowing if you think about it right there. And then if you think about storage and Ordinals has this thing where Ordinals is nice for storage, but I don't see Ordinals storing like games and social media applications. That's not gonna happen either, right? So Ordinals has its perks for storage, but that's for storing artifacts like rare artwork and rare satoshis. But then when it comes to ICP, you have things that you could actually run scalable apps on this, and then you have Rootstock, which is for stable coins and your money, and then have all these things. But if you put those together, if you put Bitcoin together with ICP and Rootstock, you have a system where, hey, I could have my identity connect to Bitcoin, but then connect to ICP and have them earning games, because have them earning Bitcoin within the games. So on top, I have the link to a game from ICP. The founder of that studio, his name is Stoll. I was in the call with him, and basically what's happening there is that you're able to just use their games, and there's no need for a wallet, which is interesting. And I'm just learning more. How do I do things without the need for all these wallets and all these all these things slow me down, right? And then so yes, I'm just diving deep into that, and then it goes to identity because they're focusing on identity. How do I integrate identity solutions onto these games, and then yeah, it comes to Rootstock where, hey, I can have identity and attach that to those games and earn Bitcoin. So ICP also has Bitcoin, right? I believe it's called 𝒞𝒽𝒾𝓃. They're able to create a bridge. They're able to like basically get Bitcoin without the need of a bridge, but it's not perfect, right? And I believe RBTC is much stronger in that sense, right? So I want to bring in a stronger Bitcoin onto ICP and be able to earn that Bitcoin. And if that works in that case, maybe there could be a pool, a liquidity pool for ICP's Bitcoin, and then RBTC's Bitcoin, because we need liquidity for RBTC. That's also a benefit there as well.
Okay, that is very interesting. I definitely need to learn more about ICP. Sounds like the online storage sounds like it could be very, very useful. So I think we should bring it to a close, and whatever is left unsaid, and I know there's a lot of topics that we can delve deeper into, and we can do that in future spaces. But before we leave, I just want to ask the speakers the famous last questions that we do in all of the Talks with Sato spaces, which is, what would you ask Satoshi if you meet him? Now, if you want, you can start, and then we can go to Henry, and then to G9.BTC, and then Peters. If you also want to chime in, you can do so. Cody, I'll give the microphone to you.
Yes. What I would love to ask Satoshi is, what do you think is the ultimate blockchain use case? That's something I would love to ask him.
Okay, so for me, I think this is actually the first time I'm being asked this question. We never thought of this before. But okay, what I would ask Satoshi is that, why did he create just 21 million Bitcoin? Why was it 21 million Bitcoin? Why was it just 21 million Bitcoin? So I think I really want to know, why was it 21 million Bitcoin? Why wasn't it more? Why wasn't it less?
Yeah, that is actually a very good question because it sounds very arbitrary.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think I'll go next. So I would love to ask him what happens to the rest of the world if the 21 million bitcoins are being bought and owned by individuals. What happens to the people can't who can own any yet before it's out of reach of the rest of them? Like, let's assume Bitcoin are being bought by every other person, like 21 person. Let's assume 21 person bought Bitcoins, and each of them has a million of Bitcoin each. So what happened to the rest of the world? What should we do?
That is also a very interesting question. Like, what happens if Bitcoin gets held by only a small number of people? That is a very very valid question. G9 or Sakia, do you guys also want to chime in?
Yeah. So my question would be, what would happen if 21 million Bitcoins get mined? Does it get converted to proof of stake after? How will the miners get paid? I assume they just get paid in transactions only, right? Because they can't mine anymore.
Yes, I believe that is the idea that once all the bitcoins are mined, then the transaction fees would be enough to support the miners. But it will be interesting to know what Satoshi would answer to that question. Sakia, do you also want to chime in or give me a thumbs up or a thumbs
Sure.
down?
Yeah, I would like to
Okay,
know.
well,
Uh,
in that case, I think
Everybody
we
can hear me?
can close
Testing,
this
testing.
space. Thank you, Cody, Henry, Gina, and Sakia, Peters. It has been amazing. I've learned a lot of new things. I've taken a bunch of notes, and I am sure we could have spoken for another hour easily. So,
I
yes,
Testing.
yes, please,
I
please.
think
Continue.
Cody. I think Sakia was saying something.
Oh yes, she was. I don't think Thomas heard it though. So sorry, Sakia.
That's okay. Can you guys hear me now? I don't think my audio
Yeah, we can
wasn't
hear
working.
you.
Yeah,
Yes, we
quick
can
question.
hear you.
Perfect now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, quick question for
Yeah,
Mrs. Cody.
I think there must have been some problem going on with Twitter today because I was hearing everyone perfectly until the end where Cody and Sakia, I don't think I can hear you anymore. But
Anybody else
anyway, this
able
has
to
been
hear
a
me?
great spaces. Thank you all for coming. It will be released as a podcast later. We're gonna do some content around it with articles and clips, and hopefully that can help you, Cody, and G9 to get study Bitco going. And we would be very very happy to have you again some other time to talk more about how the project is going. And Henry, I hope we see you hosting more spaces soon, and we hear
Sure.
more about what's happening in Nigeria, Africa. We're very very interested, and if we can help in any way, let us know. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the audience, for coming. And I hope we can see you next time. We do these spaces every week at the same time, same day. So, see you and thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Sorry, it's a Tuesday for this.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
See you soon.
All right, bye everyone.